Our first panelist is Travis Gomez. He's a sales manager at Cambridge Commerce. Next we have Ray, executive director at Total Apps, and then Scott Conti from VP of sales for Lytle & Company. So Travis, please give us a little recap of what you do at Cambridge Commerce.
Yeah, so I've been involved with Cambridge Commerce for close to 13 years now, and primarily we're looking at just working with our clients, making sure that we're just looking at their offers, we're consulting a little bit more, and that's really the way we approach our client relationships.
Thanks, Ray. How about you regarding Total Apps?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ray Pasilli. I'm one of the executive directors at Total Apps. Kind of a little bit of background. In my former career, I literally used to be a rocket scientist, mechanical engineer, space station, crazy stuff like that. Fell in love with e-commerce, and we've been doing e-commerce ever since. So we take a consultative approach where we've had experience with over 15,000 clients, learned a lot of lessons, what to do, what not to do, and we try and share those lessons with our clients so they have better performing campaigns.
Scott, give us a little bit of information about Lytle & Company.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. My name's Scott Conti. I've been with Lytle & Company for almost 8 years, and in case you hadn't heard, that we just got purchased by Vantiv back in December. So what we're going to show you here in our showdown, I guess it's called, is some of the different things that now we can offer, not only the existing e-commerce sites, but also some things on the brick and mortar and gift cards, so it'll be pretty interesting.
Great, so on today's agenda, we have 3 questions, and each panelist is going to answer the question, and you can see whose answer you like the best. So the first question is, how does a DRTV marketer identify and prevent fraud? How does fraud change in a multi-channel environment, which is today so prevalent? Travis, you're up.
Yeah, so I actually think it's really fairly simple. There's 3 steps that I usually go through with each client when we're looking at ways to reduce their chargebacks and fraud in this environment. The first is to stay focused on the cause and not the symptoms of fraud. The second is to understand the different types of fraud that's actually occurring. And the last is to actually prevent the disease itself. So first, staying focused on the cause and not the symptoms. Most people associate chargebacks with fraud, right? However, they're not. They're really a symptom of fraud, okay? Bad debt, another symptom. So we need to stop focusing on complaining about the symptoms that are occurring and really focus on the root cause of what's really leading to the chargebacks themselves. So in order to do that, it's really critical to understand the different types of fraud that's actually occurring. So what you're dealing with and why they occur. So fraud is usually broken down into 2 main categories. We've got real fraud and friendly fraud, right? Real fraud is going to be things like active criminal activity, right? We've got cyber criminals, we've got identity thieves, and that sort. On the friendly fraud side, this is more primarily the most common element that actually leads to chargebacks in the direct response space. So when reflecting on why it happens, I like to look at David Creasy's fraud triangle. He's got a nice theory about why fraud actually happens. And basically his theory in a nutshell says that there's 3 components to fraud and every occurrence of fraud. We've got motivation, which is going to be things like motivation by money, right? Feeling stupid, right? Like a lover scorned, if you will, or revenge, okay? We've got the opportunity leg, and this is going to be things along the lines of lack of control or weak protections when it comes to payment processing. And then rationalization. Things like, this company screwed me, so I deserve to be able to get my money back, or I can't afford this. Or those types of things where they justify why it's okay to file a chargeback and not bother to contact the merchant. In the case of real fraud, typically it's the opportunities that play the largest role, right? There's no velocity controls. That means that they can authorize 50 different credit cards on your website, right, to validate them and then sell the credit cards off. Or maybe the company's issuing blind credits, so they're double dipping. They're taking a refund from you, and then they're filing a chargeback, and you just paid them for the product you sent. And the real fraud is really where most of the payment processors tend to focus the solutions on the technology, on the fraud filters, because they assume that most of fraud is real fraud, real criminals. Okay. In the case of friendly fraud, and again, this is where bulk of direct response fraud happens. It all really boils down to one catch-all phrase that I like to talk about with my clients, and that's mismanaged expectations. Okay, this is in the triangle here. This is the rationalization part that plays the largest role. okay? So examples are going to be things like, I don't recognize that transaction. I expected one thing and now I don't see that. I don't know where this came from. I thought this was a free trial, and then they charged me $150, right? That's not what I expected. Or they told me I get a refund and it's been a whole day and I haven't seen anything on my credit card. Okay, so how do we actually prevent the disease then? And since friendly fraud is the primary factor, the cure for that is to actually intentionally set and proactively manage those expectations of your customers. And every interaction you have with your customer provides an opportunity to do that, whether it's packing slips, invoices, your credit card descriptor, customer service call when they cancel. Thank you, Mrs. Jones, for calling. We completely understand that our product didn't work out for you. Thank you for trying it. We're going to issue a refund. It'll be processed in the next 2 days, and it should show up on your bank statement within 7 to 10 days. You've gone through and you've proactively set each of those expectations so they know what to expect. Again, stay focused on the cause. Don't just treat the symptoms. Understand the types of fraud, and then prevent the disease.
Great, thanks, Travis. Now we'll hear from Ray from Total Apps, and he is going to talk about the different types of fraud and where is it actually coming from.
So one of the things that we discovered early on was that a lot of people look at fraud in a proactive stance. They try and have fraud scrubbing measures before the transaction happens. They use AVS, CVV, traditional methods to be able to identify potential fraud. What we were able to discover when we dug into the analytics was that you can precisely identify the cause and location of where your fraud is originating from. We call that post-transaction analysis. So we did a little graph here that kind of shows 3 different campaigns. One may be your email campaign, one may be your TV campaign, and another one is your affiliate campaign where you're paying people to drive traffic. And as you can see, one is performing better than the other. When you start comparing your different channels against each other, you'll see which one is performing best and which one is performing worst. In this particular example, we're looking at approval ratios. Approval ratios are a good indicator of the quality of your traffic. So if you got a high approval ratio, you got good quality traffic. If you got 10% approval ratio, you're probably getting a lot of stolen credit cards and you should get rid of that source. We also look at the types of decline codes. Insufficient funds, hey, you know what, we're in a bad economy. But if you have pickup card, call card issuing bank, card stolen, that's indicated that you're getting hit with stolen credit card and you need to eliminate that traffic source. The other things that we also work with are fulfillment companies as well as call centers. If you have an inbound call center, have a specific 800 number per channel and source. So that way, if you get a call center that's getting hit with, I didn't authorize that credit card, my credit card got stolen, I don't recognize this charge, those are indicators that that is somebody that has been hit, had their credit card hit without knowledge, and you may be facilitating that fraud inadvertently. And of course, we also look at chargeback ratios. We also look at rebill ratios. The bottom line is that this is not rocket science, okay? You can easily score your post-transaction data analysis. It doesn't take hours and hours of number crunching. And you can quickly identify, number one, where is the source of the fraud and how to cut that source of fraud so that way it doesn't impact your bottom line. And ultimately, when you're working with somebody in the payment space, they should be able to at least guide you, show you, help, educate you, because at the end of the day, that's what you pay us for. We're here to hold your hand and be of service to you.
Great, thanks, Ray. Scott is going to talk about when you should find out about fraud and how to check upon the first transaction. Scott, go ahead.
Thanks. When we look at transactions too, like Ray said, there's you can do it post, but there's also a set of best practices that you can do as pre-transactions, and pre-transactions mean the authorization. So we always look at to make sure that we can always do a real-time authorization. So when the authorization, you are actually analyzing the information coming as the consumer is entering it into your website. When you do a real-time authorization, there are things that you can deduce out of that. You can actually extract indicators, like Ray said, that can help you decide, is this a fraudulent transaction or is it likely to be fraudulent transaction? So those indicators are some of the things that you'll see up here on the slide. One of them is it a prepaid card or is it a gift card? That is very, very important to understand, especially if you have a campaign with a free trial or a close to free trial and you're going to collect subsequent payments afterwards. You need to know if it's a gift card because the likelihood of getting those transactions are going to go way down if you accept a gift card. That's one of the things, and you can do that right up front on the initial authorization. So what we'll do is we take a look at the authorization. We say, okay, it's a real-time auth. We see that it's a gift card. Now, what do you do with it? The other thing that you really want to do is you want to be able to filter it. So take an immediate action to something that you know is going to always be the same. So if you know you do not want to accept a gift card, you can immediately filter that gift card, and so the return on your website says, please enter another form of ID. Because otherwise, you are going to actually accept the gift card, and it'll say, yes, it's a valid transaction. You ship out the product. Your bad debt goes through the roof because you're never going to be able to capture sales 1, 2, and 3 afterwards. So those are the types of things that we do. So it's identify it up front, understand it, analyze it, and then actually filter on it, and that helps you get the transaction. Now, and of course, if you go into after all of this, if you have even more fraud concerns, all 3 of our companies partner with a lot of the third-party fraud solution providers out here, so you can actually take another step, and we're happy to make those introductions.
Great, thanks, Scott. Now we'll move on to our second question in our Supplier Showdown. Second question is, how do DRTV marketers process payments in an engaging way for the millennial generation? How can marketers track payments made via social media, tablets, and mobile devices? This is the burning question all DRTV marketers want to know. We'll start with Travis from Cambridge Commerce.
So let's go ahead and tackle how we track the transactions on the first place. I know this is obviously something that a lot of mobile marketers are talking about and going, hey, this is a completely revolutionary area, right? And to be honest, the way direct response is right now, and the way the systems are in place right now today, is it's really, in all honesty, it's a subset of online marketing, period. Most of the solutions out there are going to be geared towards card present or retail type of transactions, which at the very core of direct response have nothing to do with direct response. You're driving traffic right now. I want you to buy this product right now. And so most of the solutions in the mobile space, the tablet, the social, are really all happening in online format. And so tracking that is really simplified by all the tools that are available in the online web analytics. Media buying companies have their own analytics software for identifying and tracking those payments right now. So the real question is, on that side, is my consumer responding online via tablet or mobile or social to my offline media, my radio and television? And to answer that, you got to take that up with your media company, okay? Now, how do we process payments in an engaging way to this generation? MasterCard did an online marketing series a little while ago, and they were focusing on all the way that this millennial generation has gone cashless, right? How they've stopped using cash in society, how they're using their mobile phones, how they're using tablets to not carry cash any longer. And what was interesting about this series is that as they were going through it, the underlying theme throughout the entire series with each of these different posts that their interns were doing about going cashless was 2 elements. They were really focused on the experience itself and the convenience that these new payment channels offered. And I think those are the 2 elements that really hit the nail on the head when it comes to how do we engage these payments to this generation. And so if we look at the values that drive the decisions for this generation, we see that research shows that they value a couple elements highly. One is trust and transparency. And once a millennial loses faith in your brand or in your company, it's impossible. It's nearly impossible to get them back as a customer. So keeping that relationship positive is critical for this generation specifically. And also, I think studies show that if you have an exceptional experience with a company, you're likely to share that with maybe 1 or 2 other people. If you have an exceptionally bad experience, you're going to share that with maybe 7 to 10 other people. Okay, so indirect response now it's growing, but I think especially as this generation comes into power in the next 10 to 20 years, it's going to be critical to really manage that expectation and that experience throughout the entire process, not just tracking the metrics to the conversion and the sale, but what happens after. And that experience is all part of that. And especially because this generation is so connected instantly, right? With Twitter and Facebook posts and social media, they're communicating exactly what their bad experiences are immediately. And that will continue to grow on the impact on the front end of your conversion itself. So.
Great input. Thank you, Travis. Next, we'll move on to the answer from Ray from Total Apps. And he actually has a video we're going to play.
So one of the things that we're really, really excited about is I think we're entering into a new phase in commerce, and we're calling this Web 3.0. We think that the future for us is going to be what we consider social commerce. And social commerce, in a simple statement, to build on what was previously shared, is that we're going to be counting on our friends, our recommendations from our neighbors. Hey, I bought this product, I use this product, I like this product, as well as the negative impact of a bad consumer experience. So the things that we are working on is we are trying to create those social payment tools so that way you can start using those in your marketing campaigns. As an example, we just released and patented our Twitter payment platform. So now you're going to be able to use hashtags to be able to sell your offer on TV and the web and tweeting via celebrities to make these purchases happen on people's mobile devices. We actually have a little video presentation. This is our video viral production system. So that way, if you have a commercial, you can air it on Facebook, and your customers are going to not only be able to make that purchase inside of Facebook, but they can also share that experience with their friends in real time. If you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and hit the play on that real quick. So this is a Proactive commercial. We don't have any relationship with Proactive. We're trying to get them, but we're promoting them. But this is one of their standard commercials. It's a great commercial, a beautiful woman talking about the wonderful product. You can buy it now. Click in Facebook, the buy it now, and it brings up the shopping cart, quantity 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and hit the checkout button, enter your credit card information right inside of Facebook, hit submit, and here's where it gets really magical. You get to share it with your friends to get an additional 10% off. Now what happens is when you share that on your feed, your friends get to see that. Your friends get to get that 10% discount, and they are then incentivized after the purchase to go ahead and share that with your friends. So that's the evolutionary step that we're looking at in terms of e-commerce and how to engage your customers in the social media and let them sell for you. Because at the end of the day, that's free sales that you're not having to buy advertising for. And the key to that is making sure that that customer has an impeccable experience so that way they're excited about it and will continue to do transactions in that mode.
Great technology, Ray. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Scott from Lytle and Company regarding his take on social media and payment processing.
Thanks, Lindsay. So we categorize the millennials as the younger generation, the tech-savvy generation that has really embraced the smart tablets, the smartphones, and there are different characteristics of how they purchase versus how everyone else purchases. When I say everyone else, I'm talking about the standard. You go into a store and you swipe your card, or are you going to do it on a tablet? Are you going to do it remotely? Are you going to do a combination of the two? So we've done a research with Mercator, which is an independent research firm, that said 82% of 18 to 34-year-olds actually have tablets, smartphone, or smart devices, and they actually make purchases with it. Those statistics are very important for you to understand because this is where you're going to be able to sink your marketing dollars. You want to understand those characteristics of these types of folks that are going to purchase that simply because when you are making a decision as to where am I going to spend my marketing dollars and what new business is going to come out of it, these are the companies that, or these are the consumers that we're all going for. These consumers buy what they want, when they want, where they want, and how they want. And that how they want is really important. I'm going to give you a quick example. There is a restaurant chain that wanted to embrace the millennials, and they wanted to understand how am I going to combine all of these different POS, brick and mortar stores with my mobile applications. They created an application that said, search for the nearest burger joint, for instance. I want to order something online through my smartphone with a credit card that's already located up on the web, so there's no credit card exchange anymore, and I want to pick it up at 1 o'clock. This millennial comes around, says, okay, I'm going to buy it. Here's my burger joint, goes in at 1 o'clock, and has a bag of food waiting for them. This traditional POS marketer, which is point of sale, a swipe machine marketer, is now getting into the e-commerce space, is getting into the mobile app space, is getting into PCI things, PCI concerns that they never even knew they had. So you really want to partner with someone that can offer all of these services, and all of these services are the traditional, brick and mortar e-commerce, but there's also gift cards, there's also mobile apps, there's also in-application mobile apps. There's all sorts of different things that you can do. And most importantly is if you can offer all of that, you want to be able to report on it, because the reporting is going to tell you where you're getting your bump on the numbers. And if you can consolidate that all into one, you have a winning product there. And it's all about your brand at the end of the day. And you want to have that, like Travis and Ray said, that you want to make sure that the experience is good, because that builds brand loyalty.
Great, thanks, Scott. If you're just joining us, we have handouts up here too with some payment processing tips. We're moving on to our third question in our Supplier Showdown. The third question is, how should DRTV marketers best structure their offers to reduce their chargebacks? What risks are banks willing to take on these days, and how can DRTV marketers help make the underwriting process easier for themselves? We'll start with Travis from Cambridge Commerce.
So I love this little clip here, this image. And I think what's most critical really for marketers today is to really get perspective. Learning to view their business through the eyes of either the risk managers, their customers, switching the perspective a little bit. And this is exactly what happens in the payment side, where marketers are putting their heads directly in the mouth of lions and not even realizing it. Okay. So I'll give you a quick example. This is something that I learned early on in my career. I used to have a banker buddy who did aircraft loans. And he shared this little bit of insight with me that just crystallized exactly the way that bankers and risk managers think. Okay? He said, look, I can underwrite 100 aircraft loans, and all it takes is one to go bad, and I've lost the entire profit from all the 99 good loans. Okay? So to me, that is exactly how underwriters and risk analysts think, is it's not worth saying yes to something that's questionable because I've got to pick up another 100 accounts to even make a dime, essentially. Okay? So what are the risks that the banks and the underwriters are looking at, and what are they actually taking on? There's a ton of ways for them to lose money. Okay? And so part of being a savvy marketer is understanding what those risks are from their perspective. Things like cash flow. Are you going to go out of business? Are you able to handle your processing fees? Are there chargebacks with either your offer or your marketing practices that it's going to come down to potentially bad debt, where you're not going to be able to pay for chargebacks that are coming down 2, 3, 4 months down the road from the sales you take today. There's fines from Visa and MasterCard for excessive chargebacks. So if you've got more than 100 chargebacks and more than 1%, I've seen fines as high as $50,000 to $100,000 for 1 month of excessive chargebacks. I mean, it's big numbers sometimes. And now, what you've got even now is things like regulatory and FTC type of risk coming out. So saying that processors are potentially liable for every single dollar that the processor or that the marketer submits through their system. Every single dollar for fraudulent or deceptive marketing practices. So I mean, there's a ton of risk for merchant processors and underwriters to really weigh out. And yet, even with all the risks that are out there, there's still an appetite to approve and to underwrite virtually every type of marketing offer and structure out there. So the question really becomes, how, as a marketer, are you mitigating those risks from the payment processor's perspective, right? From the underwriter's perspective, what are you doing to help them? And I think this is where the value of a really good sales professional comes in this space, is that as a sales professional, they're able to help you identify what those risks are and how to talk about your application, your package, and your program in a way that's going to mitigate those risks in the mind of the payment processor. So things like, a lot of payment processors already consider direct response in general to be high risk, right? You're not walking away with the product when you order it. There's future deliverables. There's volatility. When you're marketing, you're generating sales. When you stop, there's no sales. So there's no cash flow in your business when you stop. If it's a new company, no experience, right? What's your experience with payment processing? Oh, I'm a brand new company. Okay. Do you have any idea what's going to happen here? And if you're a brand new company, there's no business credit to look at. So what's your personal credit look like? Did you just file bankruptcy? I mean, these are all the types of things that we come across on a daily basis, I think. Capitalization of your company, right? I've seen a ton of marketers open a business bank account, put a couple $100 in it. Okay, is that really enough to sustain a marketing campaign? No. And even higher risk offers, like when you have trial offers and continuity combinations, again, these are still things that there's risk there, but what are you doing to manage that and to mitigate that? And I'll just close with another story about an experience that I remember watching, and this is exactly highlights this graphic here. I I'm sure every processor throughout the course of payments has put a hold on or freeze on a merchant, right? So they hold their funds because there's some questions about the activity that's going on. And the marketer calls in, or their underwriter or risk manager reaches out to that marketer and says, hey, what's going on? And they're like, hey, I need you to release those funds because I can't pay my fulfillment company. I got to pay my marketing, my media, my customer service. And from the perspective of the underwriter, all they hear is, I can't pay. and they've just stuck their head right in the mouth of the underwriter. Okay? And so I think that understanding what their perspective is critical to managing not only your customers' expectations, but also your relationship with your processor. Getting perspective and managing those expectations, I think, is critical.
Great. Thanks, Travis. Next, we'll hear from Ray from Total Apps, and he'll talk a little bit more about operations.
So when we take on a client, we kind of take on a consultative approach, and we basically act as your attorney representing you in front of the judge, jury, and executioner, which is the banks, Visa, and MasterCard. We tend to give a lot of suggestions. So if you're going to jump out of an airplane, we're going to suggest you pack a parachute just based on previous experience. So one of the things that we do is we do a thorough audit of the campaign, both online, in TV, in radio, and all the different various formats. And the reason being is that we are in the sights of the FTC, meaning that if your campaign is not compliant, we could potentially be liable for your advertising efforts. So from that standpoint, we take a look at your operations. What is the website? What does the back end look like? What is the customer service, the fulfillment? Do you have enough seats on the phones to handle inbound customer service issues? Do you have enough inventory for products? Because at the end of the day, if everybody's hitting the buy button and nothing happens, we're all in some serious trouble. So fundamentally, operations is one of the areas that we tend to focus on early on to make sure that you have the infrastructure to support your campaign. As an example, we had a client in 2009 who was going to the moon, and he was trying to do 20,000 orders a day. And when we looked at his operations, we felt that he was not robust and he should have had a backup solution in place just in case. And he was saying, well, we've been doing phone operations for 25 years. We're good with our call center. We're not hiring anybody else. And so we actually